What if I told you that the biggest obstacle to a thriving intimate marriage isn't what you think it is? It's not differing desire levels, it's not the kids, it's not stress or busy schedules or even past baggage. We're going to uncover all of this today. It's going to be fantastic because our guest is none other than Jody Moore. She is a master level certified life coach that's helped hundreds of thousands of people become more successful in their lives and in their relationships. And we're going to talk about how mindset shifts affect sex and intimacy. These are some of the topics that we'll talk about today. We'll talk about why trying to keep your spouse happy is actually destroying your connection. We'll talk about the surprising reason low desire spouses stay stuck and the simple mindset shift that can change everything. We'll talk about how growing up when sex was a shouldn't and now that you're married, all of a sudden it's a should, how that creates problems in marriage, and a simple mindset shift that will fix everything. We'll talk about the difference between clean pain and dirty pain in relationship, why choosing the right one transforms everything in relationship. And you'll want to listen to the end and stay for Jody's black belt sex tip that goes way beyond what's in the bedroom. Now, let's dive into this episode with Jody Moore. Jody, what an honor to have you on the Get Your Marriage On podcast today. How are you?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me, Dan. I'm honored to be here.
Great. I've followed you for years. You're an inspiration to me with the way you coach and the way you have developed your business and your programs. And I'm sure in your journey of coaching, you've come across couples that needed help in their intimate relationship. Can you tell me of a time where you've helped a couple with that?
Yes. When I was relatively new to coaching and I was coaching private, one-on-one clients, I did have a couple that signed up to coach with me on their marriage. And it ended up being, 90% of what we were coaching on and they wanted help with was their sex life and their intimacy situation. And I remember feeling totally inadequate to coach on that topic. As neither an expert in that realm or a very experienced, very conservative Mormon woman.
Yes.
But what was so amazing about it was the tools that I have been trained in and that I've been using for 11 years now really get into understanding what's happening in your mind, getting your head straight, choosing more intentionally how you want to think about things, and becoming empowered, if you will. And all I did was stick to those tools, and this couple made amazing progress. So, as is commonly the case, the husband was a higher desire, the wife was lower desire. Not only desire, but the husband wanted things to be a little bit spicier and more playful and more exciting like it was when they were first married. And she was kind of just like, down for more traditional interactions in their sex life. And anyway, I coached them separately. I remember I would coach the wife and then the husband. They weren't together. But I remember the wife is the one who signed them up. She was kind of like, hey, I know this Jody Moore lady. We should go work with her. And the husband was kind of like, all right, he was open to it, but he had no idea. He wasn't like, she was more sold on this stuff than him.
Right.
And after a while, I remember this one session because I was trying to coach him around just making peace with the way it was in their marriage. And that needing it to be different in order to feel connected to his wife or feel like he wasn't missing out on something was not serving either of them. Yeah. And a part of him felt like, but if I let go of that, of needing that, if you will, it's never going to change. And I kept talking to him about like, it's not changing now. And all of a sudden he had this light bulb moment. I remember when he went, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, this isn't helping, right? It's not changing my wife. It's not getting her to be more into it the way I want her to be. It's just punishing me. And he sort of let go of needing it. Now, he didn't let go of wanting it, which is how I coached him. I'm like, you could still want that, but let's not need it in order to feel how you're trying to feel connected, to feel appreciated, to think that your marriage is good and all that. And when he did, of course, and I knew this would happen, he came back a couple weeks later and was like, you're never going to guess what happened. My wife suddenly is up for a little bit more. We used to use like an ice cream analogy, just to keep it PG for us. He was like, suddenly she's up for a more, exciting ice cream sundae than we used to. And I was like, of course, because that's what happens When he stopped
Yes.
needing it and it stopped feeling like an obligation to her, it suddenly became more appealing. So anyway, there's a lot to unpack there, but it really did show me like the tools that I have been trained in and use can help with any situation. And they're really powerful when people are open to them.
I agree, and amen to those tools. I use them on myself. I use them with the clients that I coach.
Yeah.
These are really good tools to bring awareness to the way we think,
Yeah.
because you can't fix what you can't see.
That's right.
That's what this does. It
Yes.
shines a light on what's really going on.
Love it.
So, as a coach and coaching thousands, tens of thousands of people in your program, what are common patterns you see that couples or individuals run into when it comes to sexual intimacy in their relationships?
Yeah. Well, okay. The first thing that comes, it affects their marriage in all ways, but it's sort of I would say a root
A
cause.
deeper? Yes.
Yeah. Of the intimacy issues is what I call displaced emotional ownership. So in other words, it's so tempting for me as a wife to think that one of my primary responsibilities is to keep my husband happy. And that
Yes.
my life is better. I mean, and for my husband probably to think the same about me, right? We even have these
Mhm.
things like happy wife, happy life. And
Right.
we desperately want the other person to approve of us, usually, to be positive, to be happy, so that it doesn't cause what we think are problems for us, right?
Right.
So we take ownership for our spouse's emotions. At the same time, we delegate the ownership over our emotions to our spouse.
And how do we do that?
So if, let's say my husband is unhappy, maybe he
Uh-huh.
comes home from work grumpy and complaining.
Right.
I coach a lot of women who say, my husband is so negative and so grumpy. He hates his job. He comes home and complains about it every day. And
Mhm.
I have to point out to them, as someone pointed out to me at one time, you're very negative about your negative husband.
Uh-huh.
And I think I'm just stating the facts. Like, he's
Mhm.
grumpy, he's negative, he complains a lot. But that is me being grumpy and negative and complaining about my spouse.
In response, right. Uh-huh.
Yes. And so, even if it's true that he's unhappy, and even if everyone would agree that he's complaining, my unhappiness, my negativity is coming from me thinking that he shouldn't be that way. And that
Right.
is why we get into this problem. That's why we try to control or manipulate or people please or placate or whatever our spouses so that we can feel better. Sometimes it works,
Mhm.
but many times it doesn't. And then we're left resentful. And so it always begins with recognizing it's not to say, Dan, that we don't care about how our spouse feels. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not mine to own how my spouse feels. And
Yes.
sometimes my spouse wants or needs or is just going to feel negative, is going to be unhappy, and is even going to think that I'm the cause of it. Right. And so
Right.
I can't take that on as mine to own and control, or I have to contort myself to try to please my spouse, which ultimately leads to resentment and is not real in the end. Again, it doesn't mean I don't care, but I have to take ownership of how do I want to feel? How am I choosing to feel? How am I going to experience this relationship in my life and not delegate it to my spouse? So there's
Yeah.
just a mix up that happens there.
That's brilliant. We talk a lot about boundaries, healthy boundaries in relationships, and this is like an example of one that's probably people don't think of. But it's that I have a boundary of where my emotions are, but we let it be so permeable with the way our spouse is behaving. We don't see it that way.
Yeah, and I mean there are what they call mirroring neurons, right? And so
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
our
Uh-huh.
default status is to mirror the people around me. If I like, you and I got on this call today to do this interview and you're very kind and polite and then I'm kind and polite in return and we're just kind of mirroring each other, right?
Mhm.
If you got on and you were really mad about something and accusing me of being late or something, I might get defensive. And like
Uh-huh.
it's natural to mirror each other. It's actually like a survival mechanism in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
end.
yeah. Uh-huh.
And so that happens. But it's all it takes is a little bit of awareness. That's it.
Uh-huh.
You just have to become aware like, oh, this person is feeling this way. And I can feel that way. On default, I will feel something similar probably in response, but I don't have to. I have a lot of options because my emotions are created by my own thinking, my own stories, my own beliefs. What's happening in my mind is creating how I'm feeling in my body. It's not what's happening in my husband's mind or body that's creating how I'm feeling. So when you recognize, oh, I have options here. I don't have to get him to be happier and less negative in order for me to feel better.
Mhm.
Then you become empowered. And I know, like, we'll talk about how this connects to intimacy in just a minute, but I do think
Yes.
it's helpful to look at. I remember my husband for a long time was just really stressed and worried about his job. And he
Uh-huh.
would come home every day stressed and saying things to me like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get fired. Like he was legitimately worried, right?
Uh-huh.
And became so worried about his job, but also about him being so worried. And so
Right.
it feels like that feels like a loving, kind thing to do as a spouse, to be worried about your worried spouse. But then all you have is two worried people.
Yes.
And so
Y
what I had to do is realize, okay, he, for whatever reason, needs to be worried right now, it seems like, or wants to be, or he just is worried. Okay. What if I stop trying to talk him out of it all the time? Because
Uh-huh.
that's not working. You pull on someone's story sometimes, like, oh, honey, don't worry, you're doing a great job. It's gonna be fine.
Right,
And he
right.
pulls back. No, you don't understand. This is happening and that's happening. And my boss said this. And he digs in. Sometimes they'll dig in deeper to their story when we try to
Yeah,
take it
yeah,
away.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna talk him out of being worried. But what if I wasn't worried about him being worried?
Just let him be worried.
Yeah. And it
Uh-huh.
comes from a simple thought like, it's okay that he's worried.
Mhm.
It's not a problem that I need to solve. I can be compassionate and empathetic. And I'm so sorry that you're worried, honey. And if
Mhm.
you need to be worried, you totally can. And I'm not worried, but you can be.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have one person who's worried and one person who's calm. And if they choose calm, you've given them some proof that it's okay, but then they may not. But
Uh-huh.
suddenly you stop trying to manipulate your spouse.
Yes.
So freeing in the end.
Uh-huh. My cousin
Anyway,
has a T-shirt that says, "I need you to calm down so that I can calm down." And we think it's so
exactly.
funny. That's
Right.
exactly what's going
But
on
that's the
there.
long way around, right? And people say, well, it's
Yes.
so hard to do that. I'm like, no, it's much harder to try to control your spouse
Yeah,
than
and
to
it's
just go,
you can never actually control them. It's
no.
all like pseudo control, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love this because I think even in your opening story and this one, we're hinting at this underlying theme of freedom and empowerment
Hmm.
when we don't feel so captive by our spouse's choices all the time. We
Yeah.
take back our own control of ourselves and let them be them and let us be us. Of course, with great compassion and kindness too mixed in there. But that's really how we create more self reliance, more emotional self reliance, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
So we have a self that we can bring to the marriage. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. I always say, I just want my husband Jake to be the Jakest Jake he can be.
Uh-huh.
And my job is to be the Jodiest Jody I can be. Not
Uh-huh.
to like, if Jake could just be like a Jody-ish Jake,
Uh-huh.
my brain thinks that would be better. Why don't you just be
Uh-huh.
more like me?
Right.
But when I finally let that go and realized, no, 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 that's not the goal.
Mhm.
It really is freeing. So anyway,
That's great. Okay, what's the second thing that you
okay.
see a lot in your
So the
coaching?
second thing, and now we'll get in a little bit more to intimacy, but this comes into play is the majority of my clients are women, although we're getting more and more men. And the majority of the time, the woman is the lower desire partner. Not always,
Mhm.
but most often that's what I coach on. So you have a low desire and a high desire partner, right?
Right.
And so I'm usually coaching the low desire partner, lower desire. Um, and so often she's saying things like, I just don't have those feelings. I don't think I need sex even at all.
Right.
And most of the time, they're not telling me they think it's a bad thing. They're just like, I would be fine without it.
Right.
And at the same time, my spouse feels rejected or resentful that we're not more intimate or more frequency or whatever is the situation. And so then this comes back to, again, feeling bad that your spouse is feeling bad or not wanting to deal with a spouse who gets mad and gives you the silent treatment for a few days or pouts or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes it's even worrying about what he might, go do to meet that need instead.
Mhm.
And so it's this odd situation that I feel like happens with most couples where you have a higher desire, and you would know better than me. You coach on this a lot more than me, but it's unusual, I think, that you have two equally desired partners, right?
Correct.
People.
Yes.
Um,
Correct.
and so people think this is a problem. The lower desired partner takes it as something that they have to
Right.
placate. The higher desire takes it as rejection, and then
Mhm.
that cycle just spins. So one of the things that I do offer to people in this situation is, first I'll ask them this. Okay, so you don't want sex right now, let's just say,
Mhm.
but do you want to want it? And sometimes the answer is no,
Uh-huh.
but usually the answer is yes, because they wouldn't be bringing this to me
Right.
if it was no. And that's where I usually begin is, what if you just decide that it's enough that you want it? And if you don't want to want it, we kind of explore why. Like, this is a part of being a human being, and it's actually a really cool part, right? And there's a purpose for it, and it can be very expansive. And what are we really afraid of if we're afraid to explore our own sexuality and things like that? So we can do a little bit of, trying to get someone to want it.
Uh-huh.
But in the end, just wanting to want it is enough. Might be
Yes.
enough, right?
Mhm.
To start to shift you in the right direction. And then the other thing I like to explore with someone in this situation is, what does create arousal anyway? And
Uh-huh.
again, being not a sexpert myself, but
Uh-huh.
I do listen to a lot on this topic and have studied a little bit. But the kind of the area I like to play in is that arousal, at least in part, is created by what's happening in our minds. And
Yes.
we think it's our partner, right? We think it's,
Uh-huh.
you know, the person with the sexy body or whatever is turning us
Uh-huh.
on. Well, that's not the case. One of the examples I always use is, I'll say, like, who's the hottest celebrity that you can think
Uh-huh.
of? That if they showed up at your door, you'd probably, suddenly have some desire. And they'll say, like, Chris Hemsworth or something. Okay.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's who I would say anyway. Okay. And then I say, what if you suddenly found out that he was like a pedophile?
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, that desire's gone,
Yeah,
right? You're
definitely.
like,
Uh-huh.
oh, no, you want nothing to do with that. So my point is, it's happening
All in
way
your
more
head,
in our heads.
then we realize it's not
Yes.
just chemistry. Yes.
Yes. And so you have to figure out what that means even then. What
Mhm.
is the mindset that is going to help you want it if you want to want it?
Mhm.
And just be open to, I want to want it, and so I'm gonna figure out what that looks like for me in the end.
That's really good. Good, good. So is it like taking baby steps then to figure out, well, I can't get all the way there, but I can do this. That might create a little arousal. It's like opening the door just a little bit in that direction.
It is definitely opening the door. The other thing is, our minds are so powerful. So
Mhm.
if I'm walking around saying to myself, even, maybe I don't even talk to other people about this, but I say to myself, I don't really need sex. I don't like it. I don't want it.
Uh-huh.
Your brain wants to be right about what
Yes.
you're thinking and believing about yourself.
Right. We love that self-reinforcement.
Mhm.
Definitely.
And so you will do everything in your power to make that true. Part of your brain, your subconscious brain. You can override that with willpower, but mostly
For
we
sure.
don't, because
Mhm.
we're operating in the subconscious brain most of the time. And so if I just shift my client to, I want to want it,
Uh-huh.
then I don't even give them assignments or steps or anything like that. I just send them on their way with a new thought, rather than, I don't want sex. I don't like sex. I
Mhm.
want to want sex. I want to enjoy sex. And then maybe from there they go to, it's possible that I could,
Uh-huh.
right? And their brain will go to work
To
making it
figure it out.
true,
Yeah.
right? And from I want to want it, it's possible that I could want it, to I want it is a process, but that happens more mentally than we tend to be like, okay, well, let's have an assignment. Let's take this action. Let's have this conversation with your spouse, or let's whatever. And that's not wrong to do. I just find that it's not necessary, because they will
Right.
find the right actions if they have the belief that they are a person who ultimately could want it and wants to want it.
We do tend to create in life what our goals are, aren't we? Like,
Hmm.
if our goal really is to live, I don't know, eat healthier, if that was a goal that one had, you tend to do that. But if you impose a goal that you really subconsciously didn't want to do, we tend to not carry through with those things. Like a lot of New Year's resolutions.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that we tend to create what we believe is true about us.
Okay.
Because I
Uh-huh.
see a lot of people with goals, but they don't believe it's true that they could achieve them. They don't believe it's possible for them.
So it's
So
more
I
like an
think,
identity that we
yeah,
adopt.
that's right. So it's a slight identity shift, but not all the way to a place that's unbelievable. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't believe it's true, that's why I want it is something they could get to believing, but it
Right.
starts shifting them in the right direction. Whereas, because that's why, like you said, New Year's resolutions are goals that a lot of people abandon because they didn't truly believe that they were, not only that they could become that, but that they already are that person. They
Yeah.
just have to uncover it and like live
Yeah.
into it. And so that's what we're trying to do with coaching.
That is so good. Today is September 5th. We're 5 days into our month-long SEXTEMBER celebration. If you're new to SEXTEMBER, listen to our episode that we released last week where we go in depth about the origin story behind SEXTEMBER. I want you and your spouse to make this month one of the most special, intimate months that you've ever had. So download the Intimately Us app if you don't have it already. All of the details of this challenge, this 30-day challenge, is there for you. And I hope you make this month a fantastic month for you and your spouse. Draw closer together and just feel more alive in your relationship. Now, to help you with this, we have a few special things going on. First is at the end of the month, the last Friday, Saturday of this month, September 26 and 27, you and your spouse are invited to join Emily and I and a few special guests to a virtual getaway. It's like a retreat that you do either from home or from a hotel where you take 2 days with us. We'll walk you through some fun and arousing exercises that are designed to really boost sex and intimacy in your relationship, because sex and intimacy is a really important part of marriage. And all of us, regardless if you've been married for many years or you're just a newlywed, I promise this event is going to really infuse a lot of life and joy into your marriage. The other fun thing that we have coming on is in the middle of the month, we are participating in a sex seminar that we've partnered with 25 other sex experts. Myself is one of them, and we put on a special sex seminar. So if you're not subscribed to our mailing list, make sure you do to get the announcements for that and how you can participate and watch this special sex seminar that we have coming up. That's our Sexy September plan for you. All right, what's the third theme that you see a lot?
Okay, so the third thing that I see as a problem, and especially for people who grew up in maybe a conservative religion, like I did, is that we go from dating where sex
You-
is kind of forbidden, if you will.
Yep.
We'll call it a shouldn't,
Uh-huh.
to married where sex is expected, and I will call it then a should.
Yes.
And either a should or a shouldn't doesn't serve us as human beings.
How so?
Anything that's a shouldn't, we tend to have even more desire around,
All right, because we
right?
always want what we can't have.
Yeah. It's just
Uh-huh.
human nature. It's true with our
Right.
sexuality. It's true with our food. It's true with, like, you tell me I shouldn't do something. There's this plant. I live in San Diego area in Carlsbad, and there's this plant that my sister showed me a picture of, and she's like, don't ever touch this plant.
Guess what you want to do?
It's everywhere. She told
Uh-huh.
me that if you touch it and then touch your eyes, you like go blind. People go blind from this plant.
Really?
I don't know why
Okay.
it's all over.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know if she's right. I did look it up. It seemed to be true. But
Uh-huh.
it's a succulent and it's really pretty and bright orange. And so people plant it in their yards and things. And she's told me if you touch that and touch your eyes, you will go blind. Every
Mhm.
time I walk by that succulent, I kind of want it because my brain's like, could that be true? Why is this plant everywhere if that's true? I kind of want to touch it and see. It's like so compelling and it stands out, right? As I'm going on
Mhm.
walks around my neighborhood, I'm like, there's that plant again. There's that plant again. It's like very relevant in my mind. And so it has a lot of power. It has a lot of weight. That is just how we are, right? So
Yes.
this is why when you're dating, all you want to do is take your clothes off and get down with your partner, right?
Uh-huh.
And then we get married and suddenly all of that's changed.
Yes.
And it's not only allowed and good, but now you have a spouse maybe who really wants that regularly, and it becomes a should, becomes an obligation, because where else is your partner going to get that need fulfilled? And this is what we're supposed to do when we're married, and all whatever other stories and socialization you bring to it, which is the opposite of what draws us to something. You tell me
Yeah.
I should do something, I'm gonna be like, "Really? Should I?
Uh-huh.
I think I'll do what I want, thank you."
Yes.
It pushes back on our agency. Both of them actually push on our agency, and that's why.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
personally just believe that our souls understand the importance of agency so much that we will fight for it, and that's why we respond the way we do to shouldn't or should, because it is pushing on our agency. We're like, "Oh,
Right.
no, I will do what I want."
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Again, coming back to that freedom, we like to protect that sense of freedom and
yep,
agency at all costs almost, it seems.
yeah. And so that decreases desire. It's the opposite of what creates desire for us is this guilt or obligation.
Uh-huh.
So, what do we do about that is a big question that takes time. And I know you work with lots of couples on this, which I highly recommend getting some help because we're all different in terms of what stories are driving us and what's going to be the way out. But I will just give a couple strategies for listeners. And the first one is to first own what's true for you and communicate the truth to your spouse.
Yes.
So I always say that what's true might be I don't have a lot of sexual desire right now. And in fact, I don't enjoy it. Feels like an obligation to me.
Mhm.
That might be true, but usually there's more to the story than that. So I always say, let's tell the whole truth, because the second half of the truth is, I wonder if that's bad. I wish I did have it. I think that I should, and also I don't want you to feel rejected, and I don't want you to be mad at me, and I don't want you to not speak to me. And sometimes I'm willing to just do it because you want to, or sometimes I do it in order to try to manipulate your emotions. But like
Right.
last thing I want is for us to have another reason to not get along or to fight. And so I don't know what to do with all that. Like the whole truth is usually messy. It's not
Yes.
just it's not as simple as a boundary. A boundary would be like, if you do this, I'm going to do this. I need to protect myself. This is a yes, this is a no, right? Sometimes boundaries, but usually the whole truth is just messy. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like
Yeah, and it's full of
yeah,
contradictions sometimes, it's gray.
totally.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's normal.
But it requires a lot of vulnerability
Mhm.
to tell the whole truth, right? Um, this is something I learned from my sister, Natalie Clay, who also is a couples coach. And I love this. Says, tell the truth like that, communicate it, and don't think that you have to come to resolution at the end of that conversation.
That's
Okay.
good.
So it's not
Right.
the kind of conversation where like, okay, well, let's agree on this and I'm going to do that and you're going to do this and let's try. Like, let it be messy. Ask your spouse also to share their thoughts and feelings. Be open to hearing them. Don't get defensive. And in the end, it's like, well, thanks for sharing that. I don't know what we're going to do about this, but thanks for taking a minute to listen. Like, let it
Mhm.
be unresolved.
Yes,
Just share your truth as much as possible.
and be okay with it not being resolved, at least not now.
Yes,
Yeah.
because that is intimacy.
Yes,
That
it
is
is.
intimacy, right? Intimacy
Right.
comes in so many different forms. It's not just
Mhm.
physical intimacy. What's intimate is being vulnerable and
Yes.
creating a space where your spouse can be vulnerable. Whether or not they are up for it is up to them. But if you're like, I'm here, I want to hear it. I want to hear your desires, your interests, your fears, your feelings, and some of your desires I might be willing to, fulfill, and others I may not. But I'm here to hear all of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's telling the whole truth. The second step then is to just allow the relationship to tolerate the tension that will create. And kind of goes
Right.
along with like not having a resolution right away necessarily. If you do get to a simple resolution, great, but you don't need to. That's not necessarily the objective. We are all afraid of whether or not our relationship can withstand the tension of
Mhm.
telling the truth. All of us.
Yeah.
It feels scary. It feels vulnerable. We don't want to blow up our lives and our marriages, and we don't want to even deal with an unhappy person for a few days.
Right.
But our relationships can actually tolerate a lot more tension than what we allow for.
That's true.
And the alternative is we keep pretending or lying or resenting or again displacing emotional ownership, and we keep doing this game. So it's kind of like, listen, you can have what I think of as clean pain of like
Mhm.
tension in your relationship because you're both being vulnerable and telling the truth, and that's uncomfortable for both people and it requires some space and some sorting through. Or you can have the dirty pain
Uh-huh.
of the pretending, the placating, etc. But you're going to have some pain either way.
Right.
One of
Right.
them is going to move the marriage, give it the potential to move forward and for you to connect more. One of them is always going to disconnect you.
Mhm.
And that's the dirty pain will always be disconnecting in the end.
I'm glad you brought up clean pain and dirty pain. This is a theme that you teach a lot on, which I find so useful. And what you're talking about reminds me of this couple that I'm working with, where, without giving too many details, she has this tendency to fold into him to the point where she doesn't have much of a self. Like, if he's a
Mhm.
little bit upset, like they're planning this romantic evening, this was supposed to unfold, and then, they got a call from work or just something happened to derail them. It didn't happen. It's like, I'm upset. And her immediate reaction is, oh, well, we can still do it, or we'll just modify it. We'll do it later. It's rushing in because she
Mhm.
doesn't enjoy the tension it
Yeah.
could create to have a disappointed spouse. But as a
Mm.
result, she's living in the dirty pain of not really having a self to bring to the marriage. And
Yes.
they both recognize it, although they don't have the words or the vocabulary to really put a finger on it yet. And that's why they're in coaching. Now they're understanding, realizing their pattern. But this is
Mm.
what's created in this because of that.
Yeah. And I mean, we do live in a day and age where we're starting to understand emotions more, I think. There's a lot of people talking about the benefit of allowing emotions, but it is kind of a newish thing, right? To be
Right.
like, it's okay for your spouse to be upset. It's okay for your kids to be unhappy. It's not only okay, it's part of the healthy human experience. Like only sociopaths don't experience the full range of emotion. We're
Right.
supposed to. So it's not even like something's gone wrong. We think something's wrong. So I mean it's still something that of course innately we want to, protect all the people around us. But
Hmm.
when you recognize it's okay that they're upset, that's how we work through challenges. It's not like when my spouse is unhappy or one of my kids is unhappy, I always have to remind myself, they don't have the flu, but my brain thinks so. Just like when they have the flu, I'm like, oh no, do we need some medication? Do we need to go to the
Uh-huh.
doctor? You need to rest. And when they're unhappy, my brain goes, oh no, what can I do to make them happy? And I have to go, wait a
That's
second,
so true.
nothing's
Uh-huh.
wrong. They're not sick.
Uh-huh.
They're just having a human experience. And so then it becomes, for me, it's turned into like, oh, I'm so sorry you're feeling that way.
With compassion. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there anything I can do to help?
Uh-huh. But it's not that this is going back to point number one. It's not that you're responsible for resolving everything all the
No.
time.
And if they think it is me, right? If it's like, "I can't believe you won't go to that thing with me," or whatever, and they're
Right.
mad at me, we have to be careful because I don't want it to come across condescending, like, "I'm sorry you feel that way."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
it is like, "I can see that you're upset by that, and that's totally valid."
Mhm.
Ideally, it's even like, "Tell me more about why you're feeling that way." Gosh, that's totally understandable. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's maybe I am willing, but it's in many cases, like you said, it's I'm so sorry. I just can't do it from a genuine place. I don't want to
Mhm.
do it just to people please. I know I'll be resentful if I do that. My decision today is no. And I'm so sorry that you're upset, but you can be upset. I love you. I mean that's it's tough to do, but that's the ideal. That's what an ideal marriage looks like.
That's good. A little bit of tangent. Why do you think it is that we're coming into more fuller understanding of emotions now? At least it feels like we have better tools today to deal with it.
Mhm.
This past weekend, I spent time with my aunt. I never met my maternal grandmother. She was a short Scottish woman,
Mm,
and she lost her first baby 6 months old,
mm,
while my grandfather was in World War II. He was a sailor off the coast of Scotland. So they sent a telegram, "Hey, can you come home? Because our baby Anne just died." And I asked my aunt, "How did you think your parents deal with that?" So, they never talked about it much. It was kind of the generation of a stiff upper lip. You just press forward. And that kind of became the pattern in their whole life. And I can see how little bits of that kind of are generational. They kind of get passed down to
mhm.
my parents and so on. Having this inability to really understand what the emotional process is or being human, or to allow for some negativity. I think a lot of people want to live life like it's all supposed to be positive, and if there's anything negative, you kind of stuff it down and you try to lock it away. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that attitude
Yeah.
or that approach?
I think that for, some previous generations before us, my grandparents as
Mhm.
well, that felt like the best way. And I think that's what they thought was right. And that was how you lived the most ideal life was, choose happiness and be positive. And so um, I just want to acknowledge that. But I think over time, as we've studied not only our mental and emotional health, but also how that affects our physical health, and we have more technology and more research today, that
Mhm.
what they've found is that that actually is not ideal. It just doesn't work, right? All it does is create other problems.
Mhm.
There's a book and a TED Talk called The Upside of Stress by
Okay.
Kelly McGonigal that's so good. As she talks about, she went around for years teaching people that stress causes heart disease and ulcers and all kinds of problems. And because that's what we know cortisol does in the body.
Yeah.
But what they discovered after more research was that stress doesn't cause that. Being mad about stress or feeling bad that you have stress causes that,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
what I call
Uh-huh.
resisting stress. So they have all these new studies that show that people who are stressed live ideal lives because stress helps you hyper focus on what matters, right? So
Mhm.
some stress is necessary and important to your best life. People with low stress had like shorter life terms, less longevity and health and all of that. And the
Mhm.
people who were stressed but thought they shouldn't be stressed had the worst outcomes.
Gotcha.
And so that's not only true with stress, that's true with every emotion, every negative emotion.
Maybe
It's not
anxiety and other things too, yeah.
anxiety. And unfortunately, we've taken all of these good tools and knowledge and then now we're pathologizing everything,
That's
right?
right.
Like I didn't know when I was a kid that I probably had social anxiety, but I didn't know that term, so I just thought I was shy,
Uh-huh.
And now kids today
Mhm.
say I have social anxiety. So we've gone a little too far of diagnosing everything.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Um, what I try to tell people is like, no, you're just a human being.
Uh-huh.
It's uncomfortable being a human being. And anyway, but my point is, I think that we've learned that there's a lot of tools like meditation, breath work, coaching, even just general self care, like taking care of your physical health. Exercise, I used to think I was doing that to try to lose a few pounds. Well,
Uh-huh.
now I do it because I know I am mentally stronger and healthier and happier when I even just go for a walk. And so
Yes.
I think it does way more, at least at my age, for my mental health than my physical health. And so I think we just have more knowledge, more tools, more studies, and more ways to allow emotion. And so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
And just to wrap this all together, we can't separate sex or the sexual dimension of the relationship from the emotional dimension and all these other areas. They're so intertwined. They're so
Yeah.
interconnected. So as
Yeah.
we become better emotionally, being capable of handling our own emotions, or understanding and just being in it with our spouses,
Mm.
I think it helps everything else to be able to create more sexual friendship because there's more room for two people to come up in the marriage together to have something they both want to participate in.
Yeah, that's right. And that emotional intimacy, like being willing to be vulnerable and creating a safe space for your spouse to be vulnerable,
Uh-huh.
creates the ideal physical intimacy as well. I mean,
Yes.
it all goes hand in hand. Yeah, you're right.
That is so good. Great. Jody, before we close out, I didn't prepare you for this question.
All
So
right.
I'm
I
kind
love
of
it.
throwing this on you.
Cool.
Let's say people learn how to work on better emotional ownership of themselves. They're working on their mindset and they're watching out for their shouldn'ts and shoulds. Now they're at a healthier place. Do you have a black belt sex tip? Think of it this way,
Oh,
like
wow.
they've mastered the basics, now they're ready to take things to the next level. What is one tip you'd give a couple?
Gosh. One of the things, and this can apply to sex, but it can apply to any part of your marriage. One of the things I think is cool to do is to sit down with your spouse and ask them, what do you really want for our relationship, for our
Yes.
future, for
Uh-huh.
our
Love that.
maybe it's for your sex life, but just I think all of it is an
Uh-huh.
interesting conversation. And again, not because you're necessarily going to agree with it all or that you're looking for a checklist of what to do or who to be or anything like that, but just like, it's so tempting for us to think that when we're communicating with our spouse, my main job is to get them to hear me, to understand my desires, my wishes.
Uh-huh. It's kind of funny we do that. We don't really listen. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I mean, just go into it with the sole objective of better understanding what they want. And you can even preface it with like, "Hey, I'm not saying this because I'm necessarily gonna change myself at all. I just wanna know you better because, we're not the same people we were when we got married 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And we have different desires and different interests, and I'm just curious. What do you want for our future, for our relationship, for our sex life, for our family, for our money?
Uh-huh.
What's your ideal? And I just wanna hear it. I just wanna know you better. And of usually they're gonna reciprocate and they're gonna wanna know what you want. But I
Uh-huh.
think these conversations, I know I'm guilty of not having them enough with my spouse, where it's just so easy, especially once you have kids and jobs and all that, to go through the motions of like getting through each day and who's gonna pick the kids up from school and who's gonna take out the trash and like I feel like we lose sight of the fact that we can create anything we want in the future. And if we have discussions like that and we are working on things together, we'll have at least some shared objectives and goals. I think it
Mhm.
can really create not just like getting through the marriage, but like really having it be an amazing part of your life.
I love that. That's great. Where can people go to learn more about you, your work, your incredible book, your podcast, and everything like that?
Oh, thank you. My podcast and book are both called Better Than Happy.
Mhm.
If you're a podcast person, go check that out. My website has a bunch of free resources and stuff too. If people want more help, it's just jodymoore.com.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please share it, along with our apps Intimately Us and Just Between Us, with your married friends. I promise they will thank you for life. If you want a more meaningful sexual and intimate connection in your marriage, I invite you to check out my Get Your Marriage On program. Over 100 couples have said this program packs tremendous value and has helped their intimacy grow to the next level. Now, go get your marriage on.